parts made in Iran, some by Iran's government-run defense industry. All are proof that Iran has defined no international community. And not just one time, evidence demonstrated a demonstrative pattern in which Iran smoothed conflict and extremism in direct violation of UN Security Council resolutions.
So guys, let me just stop this advert if I can. So what you just heard there was Nikki Haley laying the groundwork for a preemptive strike on Iran, or laying the groundwork for blame to be placed on Iran should something happen on the American soil within the next 1 or 2 weeks. Iran is sowing conflict and extremism, the US ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, said, speaking at a press conference at the Joint Base Anacostia Bowling in Washington, D.C. Miss Haley presented the remnants of a ballistic missile fired by Houthi militants from Yemen into Saudi Arabia that came close to hitting Riyadh's airport last month. She said the missile might as well have had made in Iran stickers on it, adding that Iran was violating UN sanctions. The Americans said all of these weapons include parts made in Iran, some by Iran's government defense industry. All are proof that Iran has defied the international community, and not just one time. This evidence demonstrates a pattern of behavior in which Iran sows conflict and extremism in direct violation of UN Security Council resolutions. Iran denies arming the Houthi movement, which has fought a Saudi-led coalition backing Yemen's government since 2015. In recent months, Houthi rebels claimed they had fired missiles at tourist destinations in the Middle East. So, as I said, it appears that the groundwork is being laid for blame to be placed on Iran in the event of something happening on the American soil, or for a preemptive strike on Iran to stop them from developing and acquiring nuclear-tipped missiles. The next one is that the US might be stumbling into two different wars at once, and obviously this is quite clear to those of us that are watching. You've got the whole situation on the Korean Peninsula, and then you've got the situation that's developing in the Middle East. It appears that one potential war isn't enough. It needs to be massive, and God only knows where it's going to start first. We've had a lot of tension on the Korean Peninsula, so a lot of focus is there, but the surprise could be that it comes out of the Middle East first. So it's getting harder to dismiss the possibility that the US might launch a military strike against North Korea, a move that would likely lead to devastating loss of life. This would be concerning enough on its own, but the risk of armed conflict with Iran also appears to be rising. The White House has again publicly contradicted Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, suggesting that the US is open to talks with the North Koreans. At this point, it's probably no longer useful to think of Tillerson's statements as representing official US positions. Senator Lindsey Graham, who's become increasingly close to the president, tells Yuri Friedman of The Atlantic that he believes there's a 30% chance the US will strike first to prevent North Korea from acquiring the ability to hit the US mainland with a nuclear-armed missile, and that the likelihood would rise to 70% if North Korea tests another nuclear bomb, which it looks likely that they're doing. They're digging out their tunnels around their nuclear test site. And Kim Jong-un has recently visited his, sacred mountain where he goes before making important decisions, as his father did before him. It just seems that it's not gonna. It's what's the word? Stupid. It's stupid to think that they're not gonna, test another missile or do another nuclear test after they've come this far. They fired 23 missiles so far this year. They've conducted 3 nuclear tests already. I don't think they're going to stop. They're not going to stop. So words like those, they don't seem to make very much sense. What that really means is, it's a veiled warning to the public war is much closer than some people would give it credit for, and that's pretty much why I'm here doing these kind of things, like making these videos. The next sign that things are heating up even more so is Israel shutting down its sole commercial crossing between the Gaza and the outside world. This is in response to rocket attacks from Gaza. There's been 10 rockets launched so far at Gaza. Now they've closed down their only commercial kind of access. After rocket attacks continued Wednesday night, Israel on Thursday decided to close the Gaza's, but that was yesterday, closed the Gaza's only operating commercial crossing. Kerem Shalom has been closed until further notice in light of the security events that took place over the past several days and in accordance with security assessments, an IDF spokeswoman said. Hundreds of trucks carrying cement, food and other goods usually pass through Kerem Shalom, I think that's it, into Gaza daily. The spokeswoman added that Israel also largely closed the Erez crossing, the sole pedestrian crossing between Gaza and Israel. She said that only humanitarian cases which received the approval of the coordinator of government activities in the terrorist unit, the branch of the defense ministry responsible for liaising with the Palestinians, would be allowed to cross. Humanitarian cases usually refer to ill persons seeking treatment outside of the Strip. And as I said, over the past week, more than 10 rockets were shot into Israel from Gaza. On Wednesday, 4 rockets were fired into Israel, including 2 that were intercepted by the Iron Dome defense system. And I've seen that system in work. It does quite a good job of bringing down the missiles, but obviously not all of them. So there's just another sign that, Israel seems to be kind of closing themselves off, locking off their kind of access, which reminds me kind of like of the movie World War Z, where it's just, Israel surrounded by a wall and then they get attacked. So, that could translate into real world, obviously not with zombies, but instead with people from the next story, which is Hezbollah chief declaring death to America and vows to end Israel and the US and calls for millions of martyrs to march to Jerusalem as Israeli minister threatens to return Lebanon to the Stone Age. Hassan Nasrallah urged Hezbollah followers to end the US and Israel, called Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as Israel's capital the beginning of the end. In a speech, saw crowds brandishing Palestinian flags chanting death to America and preceded threat against Lebanon by Israeli minister if Hezbollah attacked. The leader of the Islamist militant Hezbollah has sworn to end the US, calling for martyr terror attacks in Jerusalem after Donald Trump's recognition of the city as Israel's capital last week. Hassan Nasrallah, Secretary General of the Lebanese militant group, made the impassioned televised speech to thousands of followers, inciting the crowd to chant "Death to America." And obviously, this guy has a lot of followers, and we already see how devoted they are in terms of following through with suicide attacks and these deadly attacks that come up. So I would expect that there may be some form of attacks coming from this speech, and they may be coming in the next coming days. We may hear about something going on again in New York or somewhere else in America, or possibly even suicide bombers near Israel, which isn't uncommon, but considering everything, putting it into a whole big picture, it kind of links up together. You can see him here in the video just having a good rant. I've muted it, so I'm not really encouraging what he's saying. The next story links into North Korea again, and this is related to what we said earlier about Lindsey Graham. And if we just want to listen to him.
Senator Lindsey Graham says there's a high probability that President Trump could attack North Korea if the country tests another nuclear bomb. Graham told The Atlantic in an interview published Thursday he believes there is a, quote, 3 in 10 chance we use the military option. If the country conducts another long-range ballistic missile test, He adds, the odds Trump attacks jump to 70% if North Korea detonates another nuclear bomb. Graham said, quote, I don't know how to say it any more direct. If nothing changes, Trump's going to have to use the military option because time is running out. The foreign policy hawk said it would be an, quote, all-out war against the regime in that case.
Now, as I said in the previous report, Lindsey Graham has been getting closer and closer to Donald Trump. So for him to encourage, in his last interview, encourage families not to go on tour to South Korea with their husband or their wife, and to encourage people that are already in South Korea to evacuate and to leave, we're now getting this 30% chance that Donald Trump will attack North Korea. I think it was a 3 in 10 chance. If you break that down, that basically is a 1 in 3 chance, which is far too high, as I said, considering the consequences of a global war in this day and age with nuclear weapons. I don't like the fact that it's a 1 in 3 chance or a 3 in 10 chance of this occurring, of this preemptive strike on North Korea occurring, because there is no real good options. I mean, the only option that North Korea are kind of giving you is to accept them as a nuclear power, and that has been said time and time again. It's not going to happen. I mean, I remember when Donald Trump said, he won't allow North Korea to acquire a weapon capable of hitting the United States, but in my opinion, it's already gone past that stage. We know hardly anything about North Korea, but every time we do hear something, it's a surprise. They've developed missiles faster than we thought. They've got nuclear weapons, or they've done nuclear tests faster than we thought. They've done everything they're doing faster than the experts believed it would happen, and now we're here, where we are. So, I'm not gonna say a 1 in 3 chance or a 3 in 10 chance is a good thing, because it's not. And then you've got China, as I already mentioned about China and everything that they're doing to prepare, including setting up the refugee camps in the latest report. The Chinese Navy is now starting live fire drills off of the North Korean waters as tensions escalate over their nuclear program. And it just goes on to say the drill in the Bohol Sea was due to start on Thursday afternoon and will last until 4 p.m. next Monday, according to a notice issued by the Liaoning Maritime Safety Administration. The administration marked out a rectangular prohibited area in the waters west of Lushon in Liaoning province as an important naval base for the People's Liberation Army's North Sea Fleet, which is responsible for defending the Bohol and Yellow Seas off the Korean Peninsula. In response to North Korea's rapidly increasing missile threat, the United States, South Korea and Japan are also currently holding a joint exercise in the East China Sea. Amid the growing military tensions, the PLA Navy's guided missile destroyers have carried out a series of live fire drills in the Yellow Sea, while the Air Force has stepped up its patrol and surveillance over the region. And on Monday, China and Russia started a simulated anti-missile exercise in Beijing, which I reported on already. So, at first, when we was first hearing about these reports, China was saying peace and, let's find a way to de-escalate and not make things so serious. But now, judging from the actions that they've taken, it appears they've decided that war may be inevitable. If they didn't think that war was going to happen, if they didn't have some kind of insight that this is actually going to happen, I don't think they'd be building refugee camps along the Korean border. I don't really think they'll be doing live fire drills and, practicing drills with Russia and closing trade bridges and stopping passenger flights from going to North Korea. And as you can see, that's kind of reflected over in Israel, where they've shut off their commercial trade route from Gaza into Israel. And, they've got missiles coming at them, Iron Dome working and intercepting those missiles. So things are really heating up in both areas. And as I always keep saying, we need to pay close attention to what's going on, because at the end of the day, it's all good, knowing or feeling like something's going to come, but if you don't really know how close you are, then, kind of, what's the point? You're just kind of stuck guessing. So I just use these reports to try and find out really how close we are from all the different sources that these come from. And the next story is a little bit off the Earth into space, as sometimes these reports go. But I thought it was worth warning that according to this report, and I've done a report on this particular asteroid already, but it's the asteroid 3200 Phaethon on its way, and it's the third largest ever discovered, and it's potentially dangerous. That's what NASA said, and it's set to whiz past Earth this week and will bring with it a dazzling meteor shower. The asteroid known as 3200 Phaethon will zoom past Earth on December the 17th. And the reason I'm reading this report is not only because the asteroid is 3200 Phaethon, and I've already kind of done a video on how I believe that associates with the iPet goat video and the serpent there, and the 3 in his eye, and there's also a 2 in his eye at one point, and how I believe it's a python because it's wrapping itself around and constricting. It could be a boa constrictor, but I think that's splitting hairs. December the 17th, again, that comes up. It's the day that Kim Jong-un's father died, and a possible date, according to reports, that he may engage in some sort of provocation, whether that's a nuclear test or a ballistic missile test. We're not exactly sure. He may do nothing. That's always a possibility. But considering he went to the mountain where his father went before making important decisions, he may do something on the 17th, his father's death, to, mark that date. And then from there, things could escalate rather quickly, as you heard Senator Lindsey Graham say. 30% chance goes up to 70% chance if Kim Jong-un tests and does another nuclear test. So, it all kind of links together. And then you've got down here, which I'm sure at least one YouTuber will be interested in, is the space rock has been named after the son of the Greek sun god Helios. And obviously, anyone who's watched the iPet goat video knows about the Heliophon at the end and how that relates to Helios, and that's the sun god. And now we've got an asteroid with 3200 Phaethon, which I, have linked to the video, which is named after the sun god Helios, which is also in the video. So, could the video also be talking about this asteroid at a time this asteroid is coming? That's when these events start happening. It seems to be about around the right time, as it's going to be coming past on December the 17th. We really don't know what's going to happen, but as you can see, the way that I line these things up, it seems like things are kind of coalescing, coming together. And that's just one of the other things I wanted to point out and kind of link it into this particular video here. And then, if that wasn't enough, if the Revelation 12 sign wasn't enough, the blood moons weren't enough, if the eclipse wasn't enough, if this Phaethon asteroid isn't enough, and the 3 hurricanes we had this year wasn't enough, if the 4th largest wildfire currently burning in California isn't enough, we have what we'll call an asteroid, but it's not really fitting the category of an asteroid. First interstellar object they claim is coming from another solar system into our system, and has been given the name, as you can see here. I'm not sure if I'll pronounce it right, but I've got Umamu. Umamu. I don't know how to say it. I'm probably going to have to listen to someone say it, and then I'll be able to say it after that. But it means a messenger from afar arriving first. That's significant in the time that we're in at the moment, with all the signs that are, screaming at us, throwing all these signs our way. The Lord is really trying to get our attention, and I hope that we're listening, because as far as I can see, I don't know of a time where there's been all of these signs just one after the other, keep on coming. And it's given us enough time. I think we've had months and months of analysing videos and doing news reports and looking at the way the situation is developing on the Korean Peninsula, and now how things are developing in Israel after Donald Trump declared Jerusalem Israel's capital. We see it all happening, and it's all happening in this year. And it appears that we're not only getting signs from the media and from movies and from TV shows and from music and from politicians, but we're also getting the signs from the heavens, as we were told we would receive in the Bible. The moon, the stars, and the sun, they're all screaming at us. They're telling us that, something's coming. I mean, if you want to give, I'll call it an asteroid. Can't really call it anything else at this point because I don't know what it is. But if you want to, say that, call an asteroid and have its name mean messenger from afar arriving first, I mean, I just don't know what to say. I really don't know what to say. It's a Hawaiian name, as it says there, but these things are really, really starting to step up. And as I said, the signs are coming thick and fast, so thick and fast that you can almost miss them if you're not really paying attention, because at the moment the mainstream media is just filling the screens with, they were filling the screens with like Roy Moore and sexual allegations and Donald Trump and Russia investigations and tax bills, and everything is just coming at once. And I feel like it's a real attempt at distracting people from the main focus, which is, the tribulation, the end times, the rapture coming after that. Whenever that comes, I don't know, but according to the Bible, it happens at some point. And I feel like we're entering a phase that is talked about in the Bible. I feel like we're entering into we've already stepped into Revelation, if I'm honest. But I feel like that time where people actually realize, okay, what just happened? That time is coming, and I feel like it's coming in the next week or the next 2 weeks. Certainly before the end of the year. I mean, I shouldn't say certainly, because if the end of the year does come, then I'm going to look like a fool. But I feel strongly about it, strongly enough that I will say that, next week or the week after. I feel like things are really getting there. And obviously the 17th, even today, the 15th, I've had some, some dates kind of screaming at me saying the 15th. I haven't really talked about it, but I have put the dates up on my YouTube videos, all the dates for this year that I feel are left for any possibilities. Not trying to cover every single date, otherwise I would just put every single date. But the particular dates that I picked out, there's reasons for them. And if anything comes to pass, some things did come to pass already. Like on the 29th, North Korea did launch their first ICBM after 2 months of silence. So I feel strongly that we're all on the right path. We've still got work to do to kind of narrow things down, but unfortunately we don't have much time. And I feel like the internet is not going to be around for very much longer. So I'm taking advantage of it while it's still here. Actually, we've covered that topic already, covered that topic already. So that's pretty much everything, apart from what I'm going to cover next, which is, I already talked about the wildfires that have, devastated that part of California. I just wanted to kind of point out that this is, as I said, the 4th largest wildfire now in California's history, which is significant because obviously California is no stranger to wildfires. So having the 4th largest occur at this time, as I said, at the time that I feel we're entering, is quite significant. And I did say I think it was my last video or the video before, the videos kind of blend together for me now, and I'm too lazy to actually go and check which video it was. But one of the videos I said that if this particular scene, sorry, has to reload, I'm not sure if it's going to be on the right place, but yeah, it's good. So if this particular scene with the burning house and the missile coming up is actually related, as you can see, Bush's head, or Donald Trump's head, or Obama's head never really kind of leaves that particular space. It's always kind of between the house and between the submarine, and I feel like it's the dividing line, almost letting you know that this is the West Coast and this is the East Coast. That's how I feel about it anyway. Stronger feelings about that when I see the wildfires that are going on at the moment. And obviously, as I talked about in the previous report, the US is taking the submarine threat from North Korea even more seriously. We didn't really hear anything about them, doing anything about that, although there was plenty of information out on the internet that was suggesting there would be a submarine attack on the East Coast. It's only recently that we've started to see news reports really about that. And at the same time, we've got the wildfire that's burning in California, and I feel like that's represented here on this chalkboard or blackboard. The fires on the West Coast and submarine on the East Coast. And as I said, I said in my last video that I feel like if the missile attack is going to come, then, because these are drawn on the board, roughly same density, same color, I feel like they're going to be, at the same time. And this report here is significant just because it says here the Thomas Fire has charred 242,500 acres and is only 30% contained. It is now reported to be the largest wildfire in California history, and officials say they don't expect it to be fully contained until at least January the 7th. So this fire is going to be burning all throughout this week and next week, past Christmas and into the new year, and into the first week of January. So it's highly likely that if anything is going to happen in the next week or the week after that, the fires will still be burning. So, if we look at the video, if there is a possibility for anything happening, then, one side of it is kind of already in action. And this is the next part. And obviously that's, for me, it looks like it comes after, just because the way they positioned it behind, it looks like there'll be a submarine and then an ICBM. So again, there's no certainties on that. That's just an interpretation. But as I said, the times are in. It seems to fit. It seems to fit. The other thing I wanted to point out is this scene here. Now, I've done coverage on this scene before, but it's nothing to do with dates this time. What I wanted to point out is before. Might as well not move it. So before, I said that a bomber's foot size 12, and I was focusing on the steel toe cap and possibly just the steel part, and then gold, and I was saying maybe it's still gold or stolen gold. Something happens to the gold. But as I was doing this video, or as I was compiling the reports to make this video, I just thought this kind of looks like it's Obama stepping in. Basically, that's Obama's foot, and he steps in, and you don't see him step in, but obviously he has stepped in. It stepped in kind of at the same time as it appears that maybe New York is split with an earthquake, and then a tsunami comes, represented by the lotus flower that comes out there. Obviously, we've done dates, but now I'm thinking he steps in and he saves the pound, because as we talked about, as you can see in the video later on in the scene. Actually, I'm not going to bother trying to find it, but the scene where the boy's eyes and he's got the uranium and the stock markets collapse or markets plunge, and then after that comes war coverage, and then there's another word that comes after that which starts with NE. That's all I can make out. No other letter is shown, but all I can see is NE, and obviously NE is the first two letters of New York. There's plenty of other words out there that begin with NE, but considering the whole topic of the video, it might be something like uranium, markets plunge, war coverage, New York. I don't know, but if you look at it, obviously we've got the option for slow motion on YouTube. When the words are scrolling by in the boy's eyes, you have to be very quick though, because they don't show it for very long at all. You just see after war coverage the two letters NE, and that's it. Then it moves on to the next scene and you never see it again. But for me, it appears that Obama steps in to save the pound after whatever situation this is depicting happens in New York, is what the interpretation is, and it's what we believe. And that makes sense to me, because when we look at just sorry, keep flipping back and forth. But when we look at the scene just before it gets in there, we don't know if I don't know, sorry, if it's correct, but it appears that the exit could possibly be relating to Brexit. I really don't know, but that's a possible interpretation. It could be just saying get the hell out of here at this time, in terms of that exit. But considering we've got what I believe is Obama stepping in to save the pound, obviously if Obama's foot wasn't there, the apple would have rolled over the pound as well. So he steps in, saves the pound. Excuse me. And that kind of also links in. Sorry, I'm actually thinking on the fly now, and this video is getting a bit long, so I'm going to try and speed it up and make it quick. But it actually links into the Illuminati card game as well with the bank merger. So when we look at the bank merger card, I'll get an image up of it very quickly. You can see here that bigger. You can see here, or maybe you can't see, I'm not too sure, but we appear to have cents here. It's a C with a line through it. I think it's cents. It could be something else. If it is, let me know. And then we have the dollar, and then the dollar is devoured by the pound. So if something happens to New York and the markets plunge and Obama steps in to save the pound, that would make sense because the pound is the next one to be consumed, and that one is consumed by the yen, and then the yen is consumed by the Illuminati currency, which I believe is Bitcoin because it's blown up at the moment. It may not be Bitcoin itself. It may be an extension of Bitcoin, like a similar thing, but not actually called Bitcoin, something else. But no one knows what the smallest currency says just because you can't actually see it. But cents, dollar, pound, yen, and then the Illuminati currency. So when we look at the Brexit, what the Brexit did was it kind of devalued the pound versus the dollar by around 17%. And I think this is clever, especially if you're investing in the pound right now, because if something does happen in New York and the markets end up plunging and the dollar ends up, losing its value, then the pound will skyrocket. And anyone who's invested in the pound will be paid big time. And if it's all about oil and it's all about money and that's what all this, conflict is over and all this war is over, then it makes complete sense for the Illuminati card game to say that the pound, survives after the dollar. Kind of the dollar is devoured by the pound, and it makes sense if that happens because something happens in New York and the markets plunge, which again makes sense that this may be interpreting it as Obama stepping in to save the pound. That's just my interpretation of it. But again, to support that hypothesis, I'm not going to try and say that word again. But yeah, to support that idea, the pound was changed, I believe it was this year, 28th of March this year. The final specification of the coin and method of introduction were decided after a 10-week public consultation, which looked at the physical and material characteristics of the coin, as well as the parameters for the transition. To view the government's published consultation response, please visit consultation response paper. And it says, following the coin's introduction on the 28th of March, we are now in a 6-month period when the current round £1 coin and the new 12-sided £1 coin, again, I'm not all that familiar with world currency, but, I think this is one of the only coins that has 12 sides. And they are in circulation at the same time. The current £1 coin will lose its legal tender status at midnight on 15th of October, so that's already, out of circulation. And then after the 15th of October, the current round pound coin can continue to be deposited into a customer's account at most high street banks. That's going into a bit, in-depth information. But the reason I think that's important is not only because it's a 12-sided coin, but because they added security to it. I don't know of any other coin in the world that really has a security device inside of it. But this was done to prevent forgery and to prevent people from counterfeiting it. And as I said, if the stock markets plunge in America and the dollar becomes devalued and Obama steps in to save the pound and the pound's value shoots up, people are not going to be able to counterfeit it because it's new and it's got some next security measures installed into it. So, that's just my outlook on it. I really don't know, but the interpretation seems to make sense and in line with everything else that I've discussed in this video today. So I'm going to end it there because it's getting long. But last thing I just want to say is, take care of yourselves and take care of your family. And if something does happen and you end up being one of the survivors, don't forget about what you've seen. Don't forget about what you've heard. Remember that everything's planned, and God forbid that you're in those circumstances and you're dying for food, or you're really really hungry, really thirsty. Clothes, shelter. Even just simple things like having a bath, brushing your teeth. All those kind of things, they're going to become really valuable and hard to attain, and a lot of people are going to enter into the system, the mark of the beast system, the 666, and that will. There's no coming back from that. There is no coming back from that. There's nowhere in the Bible that I've read that says if you get the mark of the beast, you can still go to heaven. Once you have that mark, you are condemned to hell. And really, I don't want anybody to end up having to take that mark. It's much better to stand on your morals, like Jesus did when he went out into the desert for 40 days and 40 nights. I think it was that. If I'm wrong, please tell me. But he went out. He was tempted by Satan, hungry, thirsty, all of that, and he persevered. And I really would like that for all of us, if we could persevere and not succumb to the temptations of the devil. Because, as I said in the last video, he's out there. He's trying his best to bring down God's people, and he's doing it. He's doing it. Don't think that he's not.